Camera's right there. Standing right there is not a good spot.
Make sure people stand here. Caitlin does not want to. I'll use this. Hand that to her. Good evening. Can I get everybody's attention, please? All right. Welcome to the Old Farm District's Neighborhood Association Spring General Meeting. My name is James DeRofi. I'm the current board chair. We appreciate you all showing up tonight. Should be an interesting evening. We've set it up so that it starts off very quiet and calm, and then it goes into a weird thing like taxes. So that being said, we've got Ben Bikes going to be presenting. Then we have city staff members, and they will be answering questions about infrastructure projects and everything, and not just the southern side of town or whatever. And then the final will be the school district presenting their upcoming levy. During the meeting, we're going to take a break, and part of that is we have to do an election for board members. We have 2 openings. We have 2 openings. If you are interested, somebody sent us an email, but I never got a follow-up from it. If you are interested in joining the board, please go to the back of the room and talk to Jennifer, who is trying to ignore everybody, and ask her questions, and we'll take it from there. And to start the meeting off, what I'm going to do is we're going to introduce the current board and give you a little bit of heads up on what the Old Farm is. So the city of Bend is in the process of changing names, or however it's known. We are the Old Farm District. We're essentially south of Reed Market Road to Murphy Road, and then as you head east to the urban growth boundary city limits. And the city, of course, is all trying to figure out these new boundaries, so I'm not going to be very specific about them because they might change in 30 days, and I don't want to focus on that. We also have Councilor Mike Riley somewhere over there. So the way we do our questions and answers, if it is a staff member or a community guest like Ben Dykes, please be extremely polite. More polite than you are with the grandmother who scares you, okay? And I say that because these are all people that are just doing their job and they're here to answer your questions. Now, there are some questions that tend to become a little political, and staff members cannot take sides in a political discussion. That is Oregon law. Just want everybody to know that to be civil going forward. That being said, once again, my name is James DeRofi, so let's see where all the board is. Brian, would you? This is Brian Kennedy, board member. We've got Ross Tinsey over there. We've got Karen Johnson. She is our land use chair. Anytime anything has to do with development or land use, the neighborhood association gets notified, and then we notify everybody by way of our newsletter and in our board meetings. That is Karen Johnson, who is reading all of that. She's a retired attorney. She's extremely thorough. So if there's not something that is addressed tonight, then we can reach out to her. And then Jen Sawyer is in the back. She's another board member. And then one of our unofficial board members, IT people, Dirk, is not here. And he is one of the people that keeps our website going and all of and assists with our social media. We currently advertise on Nextdoor, Facebook. Reddit has been a challenge for us. We do a monthly newsletter, and we try to keep people informed of things long before it ever becomes a vote or an issue. Because the longer you know about something, the more questions you can ask, and the more we can have public debate about things. All of that said, one of our guests is the Pathway Pollinator Project. Barb, come up. I just want her to say hello for 1 or 2 minutes, and she is going to tell you about a couple of projects that are possibly going to occur.
Hi, I'm Barb Gerber, Pollinator Pathway Bend. We're all about about planting more natives to help herald pollinators and reducing pesticides. So as that is, I would encourage all of you to either sign up for our newsletter, because we have tons of things going on. Pollinator Pathway Bend Gmail, it's pretty easy. Or we have stuff back there. But just an idea that I would have for all of you tonight. We work, since we have city employees here tonight, we work very intensely with the WaterWise program at City of Bend. They are very supportive of planting pollinator plants, ripping out sod, and planting inline irrigation. So that said, you can all help the planet in little ways by planting pollinator plants, native plants yourself. But another idea is if your NA gets enough people together to think about planting native plants in some of the roundabouts or some of the parkway strips, cutting out some of that grass, and redoing it with irrigation and native plants. If I get enough people from you guys to be interested in that, then I bet I can go to the WaterWise department and we can maybe make some things happen, because that sort of thing's happening all around Bend, but it would be great to have it in your neck of the woods as well. So think about that, and there's a list back there to sign up for, or I'll try to have a paragraph in the newsletter. There, I'll turn it over to James.
So once again, we are, so if you do not know this, we are all volunteers. We are all your neighbors. We live in the neighborhood with you. We are not some weird group of people that's secretly trying to take over anything. You just have to be straight up about that. People get really weird these days. That said, one of the things that we do is a volunteer cleanup. Once a month is what we did last year. Once every 4 to 6 weeks. Anybody who's interested in volunteering for that, reach out to us. If you have a street or something that you would like us to put on our radar to come and do it, we basically show up with all the equipment. Unlike Green Market Road, which tends to be cleaned up by the Sheriff's Department's prisoner system, the rest of the public streets seem to be cleaned up by us. That being said, we are going to go into our first presentation for the evening. Caitlin from Bend Bikes is going to talk for a few minutes. Let her give her presentation, and then afterwards we're going to do questions. The way we're going to do questions and answers tonight is let the people give their presentations, and then afterwards one of the board members will stand up here, just walk up, stand in line, and you'll be able to ask the 3 different groups questions, and we'll keep it that way to keep everything flowing properly. Be sure to introduce yourself if you are asking a question. Caitlin, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, James.
Red, green.
Okay, went off. All right, how's that? Is it better? All right, thank you so much. And James, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. Are questions at the very end of all presentations?
You can do it however you want. This is your presentation. I know for the other presentations, the end might make more sense.
Yeah, okay, great.
So, go.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you all so much for inviting us here tonight, for listening to us this evening. My name is Caitlin Green. I volunteer with this organization called Bend Bikes. Has anyone ever heard of us before tonight? Some of you have. Fantastic. We are an all-volunteer nonprofit that advocates for the safety of people who walk, bike, and roll in Bend. We have a vision for a comprehensive network that is connected ways for people to bike and walk. And we really view this as also a way to increase connectivity just for people living in Bend, opportunities to socialize, get to the places that they need to go in a way that maybe doesn't prioritize vehicles all the time. So some of you have heard of us. Can I get a show of hands just of the number of people who walk or bike, either for recreation, exercise, fun, to get to where you want to go. Okay, awesome. Lots of hands went up right there. So just right there, y'all are great folks for us to be talking to tonight. So we're going to start with just a real quick little fact or fiction activity with you all. So we get lots of questions from the public. A lot of what we do really is building relationships with city councilors, key decision makers at the City of Bend. And we also really want to hear from community members whenever we're out and about, things like these types of events. We're your advocates, right? So we get lots of questions from folks, and sometimes we take this opportunity to advance. There's a few examples of a little bit of our vision for Bend. We also take this opportunity to do a little bit of an activity to learn. Ross had buzzed at me. I don't know if that means anything. Okay, so fact or fiction. Next slide there. Here's our first question. So if you agree with this, I would love for you, I won't make you lift any of these weights tonight, but if you would just raise your hands up into the air, kind of like that. And if you think, no, I disagree with this, as you're able, stop your feet. Will you play along with me? Okay, so fact or fiction, people cannot ride their bikes on sidewalks. We agree with arms up, we disagree with stomping feet. Okay, let's next slide. See your answer here. So it actually is legal to ride a bike on sidewalks anywhere in Bend, unless it is posted otherwise, for example, in downtown. Okay? Now, a small caveat here, if you are riding an e-bike, right, you are technically not allowed to ride on sidewalks. You are allowed to ride on spaces that are wider than 6 feet, which are considered multi-use paths. Okay. All right, next slide. Fact or fiction? People riding bikes frequently break traffic rules. So we agree, arms up in the air, we disagree. I'm not getting a lot of stomping feet on that one. Yes, they sure do, right? And they do so at the same rate as people who are driving cars, right? So something to keep in mind there. We're all fudging it a little bit when we're out there. And a consideration with this is kind of, who is at greatest risk, right? All right, fact or fiction. People who ride bikes don't pay their fair share for roads. We agree, we disagree. Okay, great. So most local roads are paid for by development fees and property taxes, right? So if you are living in the city, you are paying for those roadways. We also really believe that, any reason that you might be riding your bike or walking to a place, whether that's getting to work, school, going grocery shopping, those are just as justifiable actions to take on your bike or by foot as if you're doing those in a vehicle. All right, next slide. Okay, so fact or fiction, bike and pedestrian infrastructure do very little to improve safety for people. I agree with that, or I disagree. Okay, all right, so we all agree. That's pretty much. There are many examples in the United States. Oh, that show, did this go off?
I'm gonna switch mics.
Okay, so there are a lot of cities that have shown that the design of roadways that consider people biking and people walking can increase the use of those facilities and keeps people safe from harm. Next slide. I think I've got a few examples of that. So here I've got a few photos of Davis, California, a city that is smaller than Bend, considered one of those bike havens of the US, and then also Hoboken, New Jersey. So both of these cities have done a lot to increase the places where people can ride their bikes safely, so separated pathways, lots of connectivity, meaning that when somebody gets on their bike from home, there's a really simple, easy route for them to get to work, to school, to the grocery store. And I include Hoboken in here too, because they set a goal a Vision Zero goal several years ago. So that's a goal of 0 traffic-related deaths in their city. And they have achieved this for the last 7 years. Yeah, that's pretty huge, right? And the way that they do that is with some of these infrastructure elements, which you see here, that are really keeping people on foot or on bikes safe, and that really also benefit people driving as well. So like the bottom middle photo there, we see that they've put in these reflective delineators 25 feet before a crosswalk. Okay, so really indicating to somebody driving that, hey, there's a crosswalk ahead, I should slow down, be watching for people, right? And this is something that's making it safe for people in all different kinds of mode share, and also contributing to a culture of safety in that city. Awesome. So this kind of brings me to the sort of the meat of our mission and our presentation tonight, which is to say that design and infrastructure really come first in our thinking for a vision for a safer Bend. The way that our streets are designed a lot of the time can make driving feel like the only option for many people, right? Whether that's in your neighborhood or more in the urban core. And so we believe that infrastructure plays a really important role in making our community safer for everyone. In areas where traffic speeds are over 20 miles per hour, the use of multi-use paths and sidewalks that are separated from the road, protected bike lanes, so elements that are actually going to physically separate people biking and walking from traffic are really important to make it feel safe and comfortable and fun, right, for those different users to be using those roads. And then, so here's just kind of an example of some of one way that bikes and pedestrians, people walking can be separated from car traffic. Next slide, please. Awesome. And then in neighborhoods, right? We're here, you all are neighbors. I don't have any neighbors. But you all are neighbors, and so we really are hoping that cars are traveling at slower speeds, right? Less than 20 miles per hour, maybe. If we're thinking about roads as places, public spaces, right? Places where we're doing gardening, where children are playing. And we really want those to be spaces where the road is shared. Right, so slowing vehicle traffic in those neighborhoods is a really important piece of making it feel safe and where people are able to get around easily, comfortably. So we shared a few of those different elements that can be used to slow traffic. What we see up on the screen here are things like the mini roundabouts that actually do exist in a lot of Bend neighborhoods right now. These are intended to, again, kind of make that little alert to people driving. Hey, something is up ahead. I'm going to need to slow down. I'm going to be more aware of my surroundings and who else is in the space. The drawing there is of the design of the street using sometimes parking spaces to make a car have to move around something physical. Again, slowing, being more aware of where they are. I'm really fired up about distracted driving right now, and I really see things like infrastructure and the design of our roadways that make it so that we need to be paying attention so that we don't crash into each other, whether that's to a physical thing, into a car, or hopefully not, someone on a bike or on foot, right? So these are elements that can really help improve safety and the comfort, and in a lot of ways, the beauty of our neighborhoods, right? Thank you. All right, so in our view, infrastructure is also something that needs to connect people to the places that they want to go, right? Certainly done that pretty well with streets for cars. We would like to see that more for people on bikes and on foot. So as I've said a few times here, we really hope that people of all ages and abilities, we talk a lot about 8 to 80, right? So children age 8 up to people 8 years old and older, being able to get to the services they need, right? Whether that's shopping, whether that's work or school, maybe even healthcare services, childcare services, in ways that could with different options, right? Maybe not always in their car, maybe in ways that they're being more social, even with their families, with their neighbors. So what you see on the screen here is a bike map event that Ben Bikes has put together in 2021 is when we launched this. So our team actually went out and rode the streets of Bend to really kind of get a sense of the comfort level of the different facilities we have, whether that's bike lane, separated, shared use path. What you see on the road sometimes is what are referred to as sharrows, where there's a painted bike or chevron, some spaces where the road is meant to be shared with people on bikes. We developed this online map that then shows those kinds of different level of comfort based on riding those routes. And it's become a really great planning tool for people who are trying to get to where they want to go. It's also become a really great advocacy tool for us, right? So as you can see, we've got quite a bit of green in this map, but not always that connectivity. So when I leave my house, I can find a really comfortable route to get where I'm going with my bike or on foot. So that's really one of the goals that we are hoping to achieve is more of that connection between facilities to the places people want to be. And also, honestly, just increasing the amount of those places that are safe and comfortable for people of all ages and abilities. So I've kind of highlighted here generally the Old Farm District Neighborhood Association with that little red box. So we see that there's just a few of those places for whether it's a paved path for all riders, so thinking of young children or maybe older folks who maybe want more of that separation. And then more of those that are maybe more all riders, but we're using the street, there's a bike lane. Riders with an above average skill who feel more comfortable in higher traffic speed, that kind of more stressful situation for them. So just to say that's kind of the situation that's going on now. And the next slide. Yeah, so I guess I kind of highlighted that. So a little bit by Alpenglow Park there too, as well as the Ground Trail. Yeah, sorry, Ross, go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, so just wanted to highlight a few of the efforts that we've been keeping track of and that you all might be somewhat interested in. This is just like a screenshot of a program that you could find online. You can find the information for it online. This is called the Neighborhood Street Safety Program, NSSP. So this has been a tool for neighborhood associations to kind of submit what they would like to see for improvement projects in their neighborhoods. This is something the City of Bend leads and is actually funded by Gentrification Construction Funds and the General Obligation Bond Funds. So in 2019, 25 projects were prioritized for these funds, and that was all across the city. I think we did a little bit of digging in the Old Farm. We submitted 29 potential projects, and 2 of those were selected in that final 25 for that initial phase, which was 2020 to 2025. You maybe have noticed, so the 2 that I believe have been completed, right, are crosswalks and sidewalk infill on Foster House, and then also a crosswalk across Perel Road at Reed Lane, and a crosswalk at Reed Market and Admiral Way. So that's the project number 5 that's highlighted here. We've noticed that some of both of those crosswalks are in need of repainting.
Fortunately, there's some people here this evening that might be able to assist us.
Yeah, that's very good. So that NSSP project is a decent way for folks in the neighborhood who are looking out, they're looking for some of those improvements that they would like to see. It's a pretty good way to submit that, and maybe a lot of the Neighborhood Association board. The board is really the one that's now working in phase 2 with the city to identify and create plans for those projects. Actually, one more back if you would. There's actually no real visual here, but general obligation bond projects are the other projects that we just are always keeping an eye on, and you all probably will find interesting too. The Wilson Avenue corridor is one of those, so that's something that affects Wilson Avenue from 2nd Street to East 15th. Probably seen we've got Bend's only protected roundabout and also a protected bike lane there, which is a pretty huge thing for us to, again, create those physical barriers between cars and people riding their bikes. The Midtown crossings are another one of these build-on projects. I've talked to some of you tonight that you have been submitting participated in the survey with the Greenwood Avenue Quickbuild. So thank you for doing that. Getting involved with those open houses and those surveys is a really great way to provide your input. So we're really excited about that quick build happening. It's meant to test some efforts to maintain slower traffic speeds, which we really view as a great way to increase and protect people who are biking and walking. It's also going to be a way to make it more comfortable for people in their car who, there may be some congestion, but the speeds in that area can be pretty significant. It's hard to go 20 miles per hour the way that it's designed right now. The reason we want to be going that slow, again, is that's where people are walking to get to the theater, to get to restaurants, to get to the places that they want to go. So we really view that as a potential project to, again, test and kind of see some of the elements that can start to improve the beauty of that area and the usability of that area for all types of different users. So construction set for July 2024 for that. So we're pretty excited to see that. We also really view that as a great way to provide a safe route for people walking and biking when eventually the Franklin corridor starts to get some improvements, which is set for.
You mind if I ask a question? How many more slides do you have?
I have one more slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do the slide and ask questions. And so I'm going to give you 4 more minutes.
Great. Sounds good. Yeah, really excited about the Hawthorne Bridge. That's that pedestrian-focused crossing across town, and that's something that there's going to be some in-person open houses and virtual open houses coming up in May. So definitely keep an eye out on that. So last slide here. What can you do, and how can your neighborhood association get involved with the work that we're doing and really make your voices heard in terms of increasing safety and comfort in how people get around Bend? You learned a little bit maybe during our activity at the beginning, so you can help dispel some of those myths when you hear people talking about folks on sidewalks and that's not where they're supposed to be. That applies only in certain areas, for example. We are super happy to be working with our different community members, neighborhood associations, to advocate for safety in your neighborhood. So we would love to collaborate with you if you've got ideas. And we help a lot with letter writing, and would love to just kind of help with like design concepts, things like that you might want to submit. We also have what we are calling our Sneaky Middle Club. So if you are somebody who loves to get up and talk about your experience, and you are maybe thinking that, yeah, you'd really like to see some better places for people to walk and bike in your neighborhood or throughout Bend, please come talk to us. We are hoping to equip folks with some of the messages that they can personalize and then come to those really important city council meetings and other places to say your piece. We want to help you feel empowered to do that. So join our Sneaky Middle Club. And as I already said, please attend those open houses, submit your public comment, participate in virtual open houses. This is a great way for you to get involved in what's happening in your community. So thank you so much for your time. Do we have any time for questions?
Let's see, 3 questions for Ben Bikes. And other than that, reach out directly to them. And if you wouldn't mind with the question, if you could please come up to the mic. We are recording this so that people can hear.
Even my since I think this is our best one.
They should both be working.
That one's got a dead battery.
Questions? Would you mind coming up, or is that all right?
Yes.
I'm Ron Scoble. I've biked all over the United States and the Middle East when you're not wearing a uniform. When I was stationed there, it was safer to ride in the Middle East than in Texas. And for all the ex-Texans here, I I could assign some military roads. Do we have any plan to cut down flat tires or road sweeping integrated into our plan?
That is a city staff question. And I say, so just so everybody knows, our next presentation are 3 staff members whose sole purpose is to build and maintain all of the transportation infrastructure on the southeast side of town. So ask the question.
Okay.
Russ, take mental note. Ask the question, please.
Can you repeat your question? Or, you got it?
Got it.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we also believe maintenance is a really important part of getting folks out there on their bike, you know, that they can do that. So thank you for that question. All right.
Anything else for midnight? Okay. Caitlin, thank you. Please, everybody, give her a round. Okay, city staff. Grab some table space.
I'll do a walk first.
You're gonna do a walk, all right. So, introduce yourselves. Everybody be very polite, and Russ, try to stand here. We are recording.
Okay. So, good evening, everybody. I am Russ Grayson, the Chief Operations Officer for the city. With me, I have Ryan Oster, who heads our engineering, infrastructure and planning group, and Dee Dee Fraley, who is one of our assistant city engineers in the community and economic development department. So between the 3 of us, and then we also have Mike Riley, Councilor Mike Riley, and back for all the tough questions. So basically, what my job is working with a very talented people to place Sim City in real life. So what we are doing are we are operating, planning, designing, and building a very fast-growing city, which is one of the fastest-growing cities in the country. So basically, I say we need to place Sim City in real life. And one of our main goals is how do we build a city for about 150,000 people in the next 20 years? I'm going to go a little bit about how we do that here in a second. And then we will go over all the projects going on specifically in this area of town. I'm going to run through these rather quickly just to give you an idea and then really get to the Q&A because we want to make sure we address all the questions that you have because there's a lot of activity going on in town. One of my running jokes is we should just have billboards on the outside of town, those orange signs that say just expect delays and detours everywhere. So how does the city plan? We hear this all the time. I will tell you, we do think about this just a little bit. And we live in Oregon, which is a very unique state in terms of how cities are designed and planned. So how, at a very high level, what our job is, the way that the Oregon land use system is, the state basically gives us a population forecast. And they say, how are you going to accommodate that within your city? So we have to take that forecast, which for us is in the next 20 years, we're at 145, 150,000 people, about 105,000 people now. And we have to figure out how much of that growth can we accommodate in the current city limits. And we look at housing, the employment needs, and we look at infrastructure, water, sewer, transportation. We also look at wildfire, animal migration patterns, all types of things in how we plan the city. And the state has some very distinct rules about how we grow. And we are moving towards more dense development for a variety of reasons. But that's why you're starting to see these frames up in the air, these building types changing. It is because it's a changing market, changing demographic, changing housing needs, and also changing land use patterns that we need to accommodate in the city. So how do we do that? We do that through our comprehensive plan. We went through a big effort back in 2016 to expand what's called the urban growth boundary, which is really that line between urban and rural. So if you're driving on Highway 20, you see where the city stops, and you have basically rural after that. That is the urban growth boundary line. And so we look at that, we go through a big exercise, a lot of public involvement. We're going to be doing this again over the next 3 to 5 years as well. So we'll be working with the neighborhood associations, how to get involved in that. But we're really looking at how is the city going to grow? How do we redevelop? How do we expand? Next slide. One of the things that we do in that process is we look at the transportation system holistically across the entire city. And we look at all the different modes of travel. So everything that just did bikes went through, we're trying to analyze. We're also looking at freight, transit, vehicular, bike, ped, all the different types of ways to move around the city. And how do we balance all those different competing needs? and also how do we pay for it, and how do we maintain that system over time. So we just went through a big effort back in 2020 to update the transportation system plan, which basically tells us how we're going to grow the system. Where do we need improvements? Where do we need major corridors to go through, or new roads? It identifies all those projects, it identifies programs that the community wants as well. Again, a very large public involvement process. We have a lot of committees. Councilor Riley, before he was the council, was on that big stakeholder group to have these community discussions to try to figure out how that system's going to work. And then it lays out a plan for how we're going to do it. In the transportation world, one of the hardest things that we have is funding. It's not, you think of utility systems, we have utility rates, you have utility bills that helps fund and maintain the system. Transportation has a much different funding methodology. That's a whole other presentation that I'm not going to get into here, but we can definitely, if you have questions around that, we can answer that. So you take all that information, like I said, at a very high level, and then it goes into, well, what projects do we need to build? And how do we fund it? So one of the first major things we did, and thank you to everyone in this room, to the voters of the city, is there's a general obligation bond that was put out to the voters, $190 billion. In 2020, that was passed to build a slew of improvements across the entire city. This does not include the $190 million project going up on the north end of town with ODOT. So to give you an idea of the investment, we need about $1 billion investment in the transportation system over the next 20 years for a town of 100,000 people. Sorry, James, that is a lot of money. And we've got about half of it figured out with our existing resources. So the first thing we did is we passed this big GEO bond. And what I have up on the screen are a lot of projects that are going to be occurring in this part of town over the next several years. This is not the entire city, and if you have questions around other projects in the city, we can answer this. So I'm just going to go through this just to give you an idea of some of the improvements that you're going to see over the next couple of years. One of the things we're going to be doing is double laning the 15th and Remarket roundabout to make that a true double lane roundabout to get more capacity in there. We're also looking at building a roundabout at 15th and Ferguson in the next couple of years as well. This is just on the GEO bond. I got a whole list of projects, and we go through everything, and we come back again and answer questions. On street segments, what's going to happen is one of the big keystones of the GEO bond list was getting a bridge over the rail so that we can stop worrying about how there's a big switch yard, I think everyone's aware, they have the right just to stop and switch their train and block traffic for a long period of time. So what we've been doing is we've been working on the surrounding system. So that's why Murphy went through. We're trying to build all these other roundabouts in areas, Wilson corridor, so that we can shut Remarket down completely to build that bridge. It's the only way to do it. So that process is going to design this year. We're looking at 27, 28 actually construction on that. That's a big significant project that we're working on. Another one is there's a section that we call the Chase Road connection. So in Broster House, there's a 90-degree hook, and there's a new subdivision kind of off to the west there. That road's going to connect through over to 4th Street, over kind of by Powers. So we're going to have another connection, east-west connection there, which is one of the big key things we found we need to improve through the development of TSP. There's also going to be we're looking at building a pedestrian and bike facility on 27th to complete that connection between Remarket and 27th. There's other projects that's going to bring it south. We'll talk about that. That's planned over the next couple of years. A big project that's tied into exactly what Ben Bikes was talking about, called the Ben Bikeways. I'll get more information on that. That's going into construction this year. And the other big project is working with ODOT to build 2 missing ramps down at the Murphy 97 interchange. So if you ever made the mistake of like, oh, I think I can get off there and you can't, we're going to try to fix that over the next couple of years. That's probably out in the 28-29 time. Excellent. Again, we can come back to any of these slides and answer questions. The Ben Bikeways is trying to address, this is one of the council's goals, to address kind of some of that connectivity on the system. The best way I can explain this is, you're looking at this, in any quadrant of town, you're trying to tell your 12-year-old kid how to ride downtown, or how to ride to Juniper. This would be the route that they would be using. It's either protected on-street or off-street systems that are all connected. We have safe crossings at intersections, we have signage on them. It's a way to move across town in a safe manner. And then we'll continue to be working on connecting to that system as we go through. There's been a lot of discussions around this and outreach through this. It's actually in design now, and construction is starting this year and will roll into next year as well. So you can kind of see how it makes a big cross right through the middle of town. And it's really connecting, you think, all the way down to Caldera High School, up to Pine Nursery, and really kind of out on the Skyliners and out towards all the schools out on the west side, all the way over Bear Creek, all the way out to the city. So trying to connect the town in a safe way, and there's multiple projects involved. Excellent. There was also, this is all the stuff the city's building, and we'll turn on the development world next. There's also, we're going to continue to do some wastewater projects in this part of town. There's a big project in the southeast area, which is a new area of town, and a big sewer project needs to go in there to help that area develop. And then we're going to continue the septic to sewer project, which has been real success over the past couple of years. The map on the left just kind of shows the areas where we've extended the sewer into. The map on the right was the last round of applications we got from neighborhoods that had interest in getting gravity sewer extended in there to get off the septic tanks. That's the number of projects that got submitted, and the ones that we only had money for this year were the ones highlighted in blue. Those are the ones that were selected. This is an annual project. It's annual funding for this and the others. That's going to continue in some of those parts of towns that have a lot of septic systems. So that's all the city stuff. And now I'm going to go into development. There's a lot of development going on in this area of town. The first area I'm going to talk about is what's called the Southeast Area Plan, which is really the area that's kind of bounded by the 27th Knott Road connection between Reed Market all the way down to Pittsburgh. All that vacant land where the middle school is kind of wraps around to the new Easton development that is polished over by high school. As part of that development, the developers of these properties are going to have to do a significant amount of improvements. That include construction of a roundabout at 27th and Ferguson, construction of a roundabout at 27th and Diamondback, which is basically just above middle school, at a circle on 27th Street, around middle school. We're going to be improving the entire stretch of Knott Road and 27th as those properties develop to get that into an urban standard with sidewalks and bike lanes and things like that. And then the black lines are internal collector roads that will also be built to provide more connectivity in this area of town. That'll have bike lanes and sidewalks and things like that. This will be developed over time as development comes through. We're actually working with all these property owners now, figure out how they're going to develop the timelines, the requirements, and how there's like 20 different properties in here and we need to work with various owners to figure out how to make that work. But this is really starting to heat up and move forward to the next several years. You can start to see development occur in this area. Next slide. The other big projects down here that are going on are what's called Stevens Ranch, which is the current project out on 27th between Reed Market and Ferguson, where the new library is going. That project is in full swing. We just put up a detour, building big sewer lines, big water lines that go through there. That's why you see the detour. There's a new roundabout they're building along this way. As the main entrance in the project on the library. They are also required to, there's a trigger for them to build a roundabout at 27th Ferguson, and also build a new intersection improvement at 27th Reed Market. Then the area in the red is what we call Stevens Tract. This is all owned by the Department of State Lands. And recently, there was a bill that was passed in the legislature to bring this into the city. It's designated just for bid. Just did all the planning exercises on that. It's a couple thousand units, pretty significant in terms of residential units. And that project is actually the Department of State's Lands is getting ready to go out and put that out to solicit developers to come in and develop that property. It's the same thing that happened on Stevens Ranch. It's kind of the next phase of that. And with that, Reed Market is going to extend out to the east from 27th. That offset of Stevens Road and Reed Market is going to go away. Reed Market is just going to go straight through. We're also going to be extending Ferguson out to the east of 27th. There's also some more internal collector roads that we built in there. There's commercial, industrial planned in those areas. visually seen. There's also some commercial land, we're waiting for development to occur down at the intersection of 15th and Knott, right across from the high school. Next slide. That's it, right? That's only kind of in this little corner of town, all the development stuff. I have stories after stories after stories about other stuff going on that I'm more than willing to talk about. The other big projects that are going on is that Hawthorne Bridge. Just know we were successful in getting about $35 million with federal and state grants to basically build a large bridge, pedestrian bike bridge across from the east side of the parkway to the west side of the parkway, and a link downtown with what we call the Penn Central District, which is an area that's going to start redeveloping just east of the river, or east of the rail, between Revere and the undercrossing of 3rd over 4th Street. We're going to start to see 4 to 5, 6-story buildings in that area over time. And this is to link up these major pedestrian corridors to, so if anybody's enjoyed the Franklin Underpass as a walking and biking experience, this is to create a dedicated corridor. That's another big project. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to sit down with the team. I just want to give a big overview. We can take slides back. We can answer a ton of questions.
I think this mic is working, so I'll come to you if you have questions.
But I can address, I'm going to go back to the last question that was asked while we're queuing up over here around maintenance of all these facilities and all this stuff we're building. That's actually part of that transportation fee that was just approved by council, was to actually get more maintenance dollars and sustainable funding into the city so that we can maintain our roads, maintain all these new, when you see green paint and you see buffer bike lanes and protected bike lanes and off-street facilities, we need special equipment to maintain that. We need more crews to maintain that at a level that the community wants, so those facilities can be used as much as possible year-round. So we have dedicated teams to do that, and now that we have a much better dedicated funding source to allow us to maintain those facilities.
My question is regarding 15th and Ferguson Circle. That's right. Oh, wait, sorry. Yeah, Ferguson at 15th. You have it on the, I thought the schedule had said like 2026, 2027. My question is just that living there and trying to partake in that intersection is incredibly dangerous on its back out. Many of us go through a subdivision to Circle and Murphy because it's safer, which isn't really right, you know. And I'm just wondering, is there a reason why that's not? I mean, one, I didn't understand why you didn't do it when the sewer case, you know, when you tore up Ferguson. I mean, that was clear. Okay, but you made a mistake. You should have done that. You didn't. And now we're waiting another couple of years while all this other stuff is happening first. It just seems like that would be. I don't understand why that wouldn't be on the schedule for sooner. I don't understand the logistics of that.
Great question. Thank you. So Ryan Oster, and just as so everybody knows, Dee Dee and I are residents of the Old Farm Gate. So just we understand the frustrations of living in the area. But the main reason why we didn't do it with the sewer projects, we can't use certain funds for other projects. We can only use sewer funds for sewer projects. The Ferguson and 15th intersection was programmed in the general obligation bond, and the priority of projects in the bond was created by a citizen-driven committee called the Bond Oversight Committee. So they prioritized the effort of the work and how the city would deliver that. And the 15th and Ferguson work, the double laning of 15th and Reed, as well as the Reed Market Bridge, is kind of one project all funded together. So that's why it's programmed at the year it is. In the interim, there were some adjustments made at the intersection. I know not everybody was happy with that. There was a little bit of an adjustment made there that we understand doesn't resolve all the issues, but yeah, we do have it programmed coming up, and that was because of the bond committee. I'd be happy to pass that along to the bond oversight committee. Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
I have a question right here.
Yeah, the other thing I'll just add is just, the other thing that Ryan's team really has to look at is how do we, there is a sequencing, we can't, right? Because we have, think of Murphy's under construction, certain closures happen there, so we got to maintain other corridors. So they're trying to balance all those different things because we can't shut everything down and build everything at once. And that's that sequencing that needs to occur.
Okay, yeah, my name is Jim Crisco. I'm actually the board chair of Southeast Bend Neighborhood Association, which is just south of Bull Farm.
Speak louder, please.
And my question is a little broader than this lady's question. As a neighborhood association representative, when there are projects that impact our residents, how do we as a neighborhood association get involved and give comments and try to find some mitigation strategies? I'll give you an example. A few years ago, Berkeley Road was closed in both directions between like Country Club and Peril. And we didn't have a way of working with the city to try to mitigate that impact on all the residents around that area. And as such, we kind of lost a great marketing opportunity to show our residents that we have value. So my question is, how do we do that in the future?
Well, yeah.
So the first thing I'll say is continue to work with the neighborhood associations and look for those opportunities to provide comments at the open houses there, because we do try to get out as much as we can on these major capital projects. When we start, because we're much more in control of timing and things like that. Development projects run under a little different timing and sequencing, but there is. And the public participation process in that is different. It's through the land use process. That's why your land use chairs are so important in the neighborhood associations to track and monitor all this, because that's the time to give feedback around impacts. And again, we understand the frustration. It is extremely difficult to balance all these different competing needs. The teams look at, sometimes we have detours going into detours. But when you balance all the projects Ryan has with all the private development projects that have their own timelines associated with it, we do try to balance all of that, and we do realize it does cause major disruption. But again, we try to provide those opportunities for feedback through our open houses and the public participation processes.
Yeah, good evening. I'm wondering if there's a system in place utilizing the infrastructure that you have without, I understand the need to add more, but it would seem that maximizing what's available would be smart because it would be cheaper. And to me, two things come to mind. One would be signage. If there could be signs that are legible, so motorists would be able to understand how, because some people just don't think while they drive. And if there was a sign telling them, for instance, don't enter the roundabout when you can't exit the roundabout. And I'm referring specifically to traffic every day that is heading westbound on Reed Market. And they just decide, well, I might as well wait here and prevent all the southbound people on 15th from entering. And a little sign might help people win. As drivers, we sometimes vlog or sometimes drive over the roundabout. Or I can go to the cop shop, and say, hey, fellas, no one's there, because we don't have any cops. It's like, if you want to make some money and write some tickets, no traffic flow, go look roundabout and time it with the train. It shouldn't be that hard to do. And that's one thing. And then the other one is, every day as I come over to Reed Market and I'm heading east, I see a whole bunch of people that don't understand that they should turn right to get on the parkway heading north. And they happen every day. They just sit there and they're waiting to turn left and to prevent everyone from heading east. And you have an on-ramp that you spend a lot of money on. But they just don't get it. It's counterintuitive. They want to turn left, but they should turn right. So those are just two thoughts that I would like to suggest signage for. Thank you.
Great, thank you, appreciate that.
Jen is our official game show hostess off duty.
Hi there. My name is Mike Harris, and I have a question regarding Reed Market. My understanding is there remain 2 lanes of each way.
generally speaking, yeah, there's portions of it that are 3 lanes, but yeah, for the most part, 1 east, 1 west.
And normally first things first, roads and infrastructure. You indicated eventually huge traffic. And I'm hearing thousands of houses and people are going to be coming down Reed Market on 2 lane each way, or 1 lane each way. That doesn't make sense to me. And I don't understand how that could possibly happen. And number 2, for double lane on the turnaround on Reed Market 15, where are they going to go? They're going to turn down and head west into a traffic jam. I was at a planning commission meeting 2 weeks ago and I asked the same question. And the answer was, if you're thinking there will be 2 lanes each way on Reed Market, forget about it. We're not going to do it. And what I'm hearing is the planning is for gridlock. And that's ultimately what's going to happen here. We're going to be living in LA before you know 140,000 people here. We're going to control that, I believe, on Reed Market. Can you do anything about that?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And so the double laning of 15-3 would address exactly what was brought up earlier is, I've sat in that very, somebody just sits there and you're like, I need to go that way. And so I completely understand that. So the double laning of 15th and Reed will help that. But yeah, I'll be honest, we're not going to go 2 lanes in each direction. For one, it would be trying to purchase property from the canal. And probably require piping of the canal to the south. And if you go north, we're buying, 50 to 60 homes. And so the other part of this equation is state land use rules. There's a recent rule passed by the state called CFEC, or Climate Friendly and Equitable Community Rules. And to be honest, I don't know if even if we could, we're going to be allowed to add lanes to our system if we wanted to.
So what I'm hearing then is we're going to go ahead. Going east, makes sense, where it has to go, but we're going to be gridlocked. And so, in that meeting I was at a couple weeks ago, people were worried about property values diminishing as a result of the little bridge being eliminated over in the Rimrock area. What's going to happen to our property values when people want to sell a house and somebody comes to look at our neighborhood and everybody's stuck?
Yeah, and again, as Ryan said, there's a bunch of kind of rules and requirements that guide us here. But the other thing that we're trying to do is provide alternatives in terms of, when you think of, that's why we built the Murphy corridor. That's why we're building the Chase connection to get more east-west connections through the city. But I'm not going to lie to you, it is going to get more congested in town. That is a fact. Density is going to occur. Things are going to get tighter, and we're going to see more congestion on the roads, and we're trying to manage that as best as we can. And there's a lot of state requirements that we have to abide by in how we design and plan the system. That's the other reason we're looking a lot and putting a lot of investment in alternative modes, increasing the safety of the bike path systems, working on transit. This is the direction of the state, this is things that we have to look at as we design and build the city. We understand the concern, we all live with it. One of the things about living in Bend is we all live here, we understand, we have to move around town as well. But that's one of the realities of living in Oregon, is we have these, we look at the land use rules and we look at the development of the city. The other thing I will say is how we have a hard time paying for what we have today. And it would be another $1 billion probably to go and widen all the roads, acquire all the property. And there are trade-offs when you do that. So we at the city and the city council have very tough decisions to figure out how do we balance this and what can the community afford? What is it willing to afford? How does that affect the transportation system? Where do those investments go? Because we can't go through and 6-lane all the roads in town. It's just not feasible. One, we can't afford it. And then we also have some other principles that we look at in terms of how we want the transportation system to work. Understand your concerns, and it's something that we talk about, and we have meetings every day. We have a lot of modeling that goes on. We look at regional-wide modeling of how traffic is moving in and around the city and what options there are to move traffic more efficiently and effectively, but it's not going to address all the concerns to, I think, some of the levels that people would like us to fix it.
Folks, we have time for 2 more questions. If you have additional questions beyond tonight, please send the board an email at oldfarmbeg@gmail.com.
I'd first like to thank the gentleman that just got done talking, because he brings up some very interesting perspective that even I did not consider. And I hope we don't have to just deal with it, which is what I'm kind of hearing. And I don't mean that rudely, but that is what I'm kind of hearing. And I almost wish I were bringing up my question now, because it has nothing to do with that. I'm asking in regard to the tract of land that's across from High Desert Middle School. That area, which has been a wilderness for quite some time, and again, I also understand the need to build. But we also have some natural land formations that are out there, one of which is a prominent cave. And a lot of times, middle schoolers will go out there as a walkthrough for a field trip, and something that at one point harbored indigenous people in this area. What's going to happen to that?
So I'm assuming you're talking the area that would be west of the middle school, heading towards 15th. I'm thinking right.
It's an area that the kids can easily walk to from High Desert Middle School. It's across the main road, so across 27th.
Okay, we're not developing, so in that area, kind of south of Ferguson, we have no current plans to develop. It's not even city annex property on the other side of 27th. But I will address your question. If it's up in Stevens Ranch, which is that area where kind of east of where the library is going to go in. Well, I'll use that as an example because there was actually some caves out there. And they were identified and they were incorporated into open space areas. We do look at that. There are certain rock features and tree preservation standards that we put into the Southeast Area Plan to try to address those issues. So when we're doing the planning, we try to look at those things and accommodate where we can. How do we put that into open space or park areas, things like that? That actually occurred on the Stevens Ranch project where the library is going. We actually worked with the developer and they incorporated that into what's going to kind of be like a linear open space trail system because they really can't develop that area anyway. So they kind of start to incorporate in that open space area and allow that as a community amenity. So we try to factor those things in. Yep, in terms of design.
One more question, please.
I think we forgot.
I think it was Lady in Pink.
Yeah.
I moved here from an area that anytime a developer, 18 years ago or whatever, anytime a developer developed an area, at the end of the day, they had to sweep the construction debris off the street for bicyclists so that we could continually get, or vehicles didn't continually get on these. And talk about maintenance, and I didn't know if that could be incorporated in some of the requirements for developers to keep pipelines and roadway clear around the development. The other thing is this area I used to live in, we had a ward council system. I'm just wondering how many of you live over near Reed Market 15. You say, okay, one person, we have one counselor that doesn't live on the west side. So you guys say you have to deal with it all the time. When we dealt with the roundabout being put in at 15th and Reed Market, the neighborhood association sat here and said, the train's the problem, save the money, put it, maybe not there. At a neighborhood meeting. Save the money, put in an overpass. 8 years later, we're now going, oh, that roundabout failed. Let's put in another roundabout, put in an overpass, and, whereas the money, perhaps, I used to work for city government, so I understand budgeting and dedicated funds and all that. I also look at when they put the large trunk line down my street in front of my house. And then they went over to 27, and they closed business access. And I talked to one of the engineers that was dealing with work in front of my house. And I said, would you let your kid ride their bike down 27? You're tearing up the street, you're closing all the businesses. I know. So why should we believe that you're going to listen to any of the comments that or proposals that we say, this is a problem. Ferguson's a problem, people are gonna get killed. You know, we're not being listened to, so how do we get your attention when nobody, except for one person, lives over in this neighborhood?
Okay, thank you for that. We'll go back to kind of address the first part of your question. We passed a general obligation bond in 2010. And the total cost of that bond was $30 million. That was, again, a voter-approved bond. So we went to the voters of the city and we said, here's how we're proposing to use the money. We did not at any time in that process say we were gonna build a bridge over the rail because we couldn't afford to do it at the time. We improved all the Reed Market, and you've been here long enough. I've been here almost 15 years myself. Reed Market used to have no sidewalks. And so you don't have to go very far back. There was not right outside here, there was a.
But why did you make something that was gonna fail?
Well,
And you knew that was going to fail.
Okay, so no, the 15th and Reed Market roundabout is not failed. And at peak hours, if somebody doesn't follow the rules.
The transportation report says it has failed. That's what the report says. The city report, transportation. Says it's failed.
Okay,
So don't tell me that.
okay, I'm not familiar with that report, but that's
I would
okay.
like to answer this.
Yeah.
I say that this is staff. I want the politician to answer.
Well, I mean, I wasn't on the city council when we passed the first go bond, $30 million or so to do the first improvements on Reed Market. I lived here for 27 years. I don't live in this part of town, but I used to work at the landfill and I rode my bike on a regular basis on Ferguson and 15th and Bear Creek and 27th and all that. And I've seen how much it has improved. I'm not telling that it fixed every problem. But that was what the community would support back then. And for some reason, people had the impression, I think, that the 30 million was going to put an overpass, and that was never actually the plan. So we do have that in the bond measure that was most recently passed. And as I think you already heard tonight, that's programmed out in a couple more years. We're waiting a few more years until we get everything else set up, because I think you all need to be prepared for the challenges you're going to face, in particular in this part of town, for at least a year, if not longer, for the construction period. So we want the rest of the road network to work well, so when it is shut down for the overpass, we're ready for it, and we have the best working system possible, which again won't be perfect. The other thing I just want to say about City Council, a couple things that I thought of as you were asking your question was, one, there is two councilors. One councilor lives in the central area, if you will, kind of near the intersection of 8th and Greenwood, kind of that part of town. And our mayor, Melanie Keebler, lives down here in the new, I forget the name of it.
The bridges.
Yeah, it's down here in the southeast. So the mayor actually lives here. She grew up in there. So there's more. Well, no, she goes on everything. The mayor goes on everything. Yeah, it's always a 7. It's always whoever's at the meeting votes, as long as they're at a quorum. Yeah, and then, in terms of engagement and just getting us to listen, I think you've heard tonight, it is really important for all the neighborhood districts to, and Karen does a great job of this, of paying attention to all the land use planning stuff, watching the agendas for things like the transportation bond oversight committee, because there's a lot of concerns that we're hearing tonight about what kind of projects, when are we doing them, on what schedule, and necessarily showing up at those meetings and influencing them. That is a council-appointed group of citizen volunteers from across the community who are helping us make the decisions about how and when to prioritize projects. So giving them your input, or better yet, next time there's an opening, volunteering to be on, to be appointed to that committee. I understand there's the old adage, you can't change anything at City Hall. I would also tell you though, Glenn Pikes has framed it perfectly, the squeaky wheel club. Their squeaky wheels do get attention. We as council, when we hear about stuff, we'll refer stuff to ask, we'll ask follow-up questions, and things do get influenced. I mean, perhaps the best project I can think of, and it is one that's more like head-oriented, the improvements, but the Wilson Corridor project is substantially different than what was originally proposed, and that is because of citizen engagement, in my opinion. People showing up on a regular basis to the open houses and changing what that looks like. Now, this isn't answering your question directly, but the current city council, myself included, is more focused on making sure that we are doing as much investments in walking and biking and safety as we have in moving cars in the past. And that is a change because voters have made that change in terms of how we approach things. We're still very focused on how do we move cars because we understand that's how we're going to do it. But things shift because people engage in the process, and that's a political election process. So I do think we listen. That doesn't, because we don't do something somebody says, doesn't mean we didn't listen.
What do you think about the ward section for council?
Oh yeah, I meant to address that. So that has been talked about. It's not currently on the agenda, and to be honest, I'm not 100% sure there is a schedule under the city charter. There's been a discussion about keeping it at 7 and having, say, 4 wards and 3 at large, or going all wards. I think the problem if you go all wards, the risk is that you sort of become very, tribal, if you will, and just about my neighborhood, and you're not necessarily asking people to look at the whole city. So I'd probably, if that discussion goes forward, advocate for some kind of mix. Maybe you have a few more councilors that work better. 7's a pretty good number. It's not too small, it's not too big, and it gets too big and get a little more unwieldy. But it's a discussion that has been talked about, but hasn't advanced to actually moving forward. It requires an amendment of our charter, which is like our constitution for the city. So the people then would have to vote on it. That's what
All right, folks. Thank you, Councilor Riley. Thank you, staff. From my estimate, there was at least 5 or 6 more people that had questions for city staff. Please send them to us. We will forward them to the staff members, and they will do their best to answer them. And some things are political, some things are actually just logistics. On a neighborhood association note, I promise you that by the time you see a shovel or the orange sign that says a detour, it's probably been talked about 5 years before. So if you want to know what's going on, read our newsletters, join our board. If you live in a neighborhood with a homeowners association, make sure that homeowners association gets our newsletters, because we're the ones who are getting the land use notifications, and we go above and beyond. I believe the legal limit is only 500 feet, Karen, of notifications. We make sure the entire neighborhood district gets. So if people didn't want to do and kill projects and keep things quiet, we could do that. We choose the district knowing everything. I say that at this point, we're going to take 2 or 3 minutes. If you need to go to the bathroom or whatever, please do. School district's coming up next. And at the exact same time, after 3 minutes, as these swap, we're going to do a vote. So I'm up for election. Anybody else who wants to join the board, basically work on the honor system. If you live in the neighborhood, you get a vote, raise your hand. If you don't live in the neighborhood, don't vote. That said, Jen has something to say, and there.
We meet the second Monday of every single month here over in one of those smaller rooms. So we encourage you to come to those meetings. We also do it online. There's hybrid to accommodate everybody. We need to see more people at these meetings. We can help answer your questions and deal with your frustration. I understand there's a lot of frustration from here. It's very frustrating to be here sometimes, but we need more people to show up.
No microphone. Please grab a sandwich, grab a drink. Everybody breathe. We know these topics are contentious. I promise you, we do. That is why we have these meetings. That's why we bring the fun people to answer the questions. So take a minute, see you in a second.
What is our time?
Or we might stand. We'll stand camera. Honestly, for the presentation, you do that. What if it's, we can see these screens. Is there anything you want to streamline that you have time, like breeze through? I don't want to go too much. Organization has to I'll just say there's a serious
I wore it specifically for the night.
Oh, there you go.
I'm a huge fan. That's how I learned about all kinds of things. Junction.
Grow up in Bend?
Yeah, I'm from the East Coast originally. Okay. But I have lived here longer than any place else. I've watched it change a lot. 25 years now. So I'm surprised we've never met before this. Back in those days, there was Shoes Brewery on Monday night and BBC on Tuesdays.
Really? Yeah, I was working all the time. And then had children. I remember the first time I visited, my husband and I lived on the coast, and they had a little conference for his job, and I think the population was like.
And this is just a public announcement. We were planning on ending at 7:30. We will ask to stay longer because this last presentation is 69.
That dates my phone. But I barely remember. Do you remember Shutesbury was the only brew house, and we could get $1.50 pints, I think, on Wednesdays or something like that. And we did. We had a lot of them.
Get out to lunch, it's like $3, right? So like really hard to get out anywhere.
Oh, even lunch for one person sometimes is $20. Yeah, make their tummies happy first, right?
I wasn't expecting this city staff to be so contentious.
Yeah.
It's hit or miss.
Well, it's construction season too. Right? People are seeing it right now.
I just thought it was continuous.
Slows. It doesn't all end, but it ramps up for sure.
I had trouble. Getting here just this afternoon. I experienced a train. There's like can't turn left on A.
one of those. Anyway, the weird thing is, we cannot, and it's not required by the Constitution, teach common sense.
I avoid this area if I can.
It'd be really confusing.
Okay, everybody start to move back to your seats.
Do you want to start in the middle and then someone else?
Yeah. Or I can also hand it to you if you'd like to.
No.
Okay. For the informative people over at Med Mics, please stop presenting. You're doing an amazing job and no one wants to stop hearing from you. Okay, so very briefly, I am going to ask that you stay. We were planning at a 7:30 end time, but we have the room for a while, so we're going to make sure the school levy gets a presentation and you can get your questions in. So I remind you, if you have questions about the infrastructure or anything for the city staff, reach out to us and we'll get them to you. On that note, we've got some quick question. I'm going to ask you, how did you hear about this meeting? Just raise your hand. Who got the newsletter and email? Okay. Who got the postcard? Okay. Who saw the A-frame signs on the entrances around town? Okay. Brian, is that on? Social media. Who heard about us on social media? Okay. Thank you. That just helps us reach you for future communications. On that note, is anyone interested in joining the board? I see no hands. Okay, on that note, I am up for election. Who is interested in me being on the board again? Please raise your hand. Okay, and who does not want to be on the board again? Okay, Ross Hayden. I guess I'm on the board, so for the official minutes. We hold, after COVID, we decided to hold elections once a year. Every other year is 4 members, then 3 members, 4 members, and 3 members. That said, we now have the school district, some staff members from the school district, I guess the best way to describe you. Scott, would you please introduce yourself, introduce who you're with, take it away, and Ross, do you need to run their presentation, or?
Yep, we got it.
Okay, cool, have fun.
Thank you, James. Thank you for inviting this, and thank you for all of you for sticking around for our presentation. First of all, I'm Scott Maven, Director of Communications for Van Lapine Schools. Joining me this evening is our Deputy Superintendent, Laura Nordquist. And over here to my left, your right, is Julie Craig. Julie's a parent in our district, a volunteer in our schools, and also served 9 years on our school board. Julie is tonight representing the CORE group. The CORE group is the community organization that is supporting the levy, passage of the levy on the May ballot. So we will try to speed along through this presentation and make sure we leave some time for some of your questions at the end. So I'm going to actually hand it over to Laura to kick us off. Laura and I, as employees, we'll talk about the facts of the levy, how we got here, how it was developed for the May ballot, and kind of the what of it. And then at the end, Julie would like to say a few words more about the why.
Thanks, Scott, and also thanks to you for staying. I know it's a long evening, but we appreciate it. The first thing I want to do is just quickly talk about levies versus bond election. Our way of remembering it is that bonds are for buildings and levies are for learning. So the community of Ben Lapine Schools has been so supportive in the district passing a number of construction and maintenance bonds over the last 20 years, and we're so grateful for this. This is the first time in over 20 years that we've approached the community about a levy, and that is for teaching positions, it's for operational costs, programming positions and things like that. So just to help you with that difference. I think it's important to always start with our why, and Julie, as a member of our board, was part of the group that really focused on 3 very important goals for students. And one is that they have a strong educational foundation, so they're ready for whatever's next in their life. Second, that our students have a passion, a purpose, and a plan for their future. And third, that our students, their families, and our staff feel really connected to the schools that they attend, or where their children attend, or where they work. And we can kind of sum that up in a mission statement that said every student in Ben Lapine Schools is known by name, strengths, and needs, and graduates ready for career, college, and civic engagement. I'll pass it to Scott with some more information about who we are.
Just for those of you who may not be familiar, we are the second largest employer in Central Oregon with just under 2,200 employees. We're serving just over 17,000 students in 33 schools here in Bend and also in the South County area, Sun River and Lapine. We have quite a large area that we cover too with our buses, 1,600 square miles. You see a lot of those yellow buses out there on those routes. And we just wanted to share a little bit about the accomplishments, the achievements of our graduates. Last June, we had 1,250 students graduate Ben Lapine Schools, and about 30% of them earned honors diplomas on graduation. You can see some of the areas there, some of the additional areas where their accomplishments are evident. Uh-oh. I think I know what I need to do. Right back. I just need to remind you that I'm still here. Hey, there we go. We also are really proud of this, career technical education. A lot of us remember shop class or home ec class, and a lot of us may be under the impression that public schools got rid of that. And on the contrary, this is an area that's thriving in our district. You can see we have 34 programs in our high schools, our 7 high schools now, that offer CTE courses. And we have about 75% of our high school students are taking at least one CTE course during those 4 years of high school. They're graduating at a higher rate than any other group, basically, of high school students. So really, we're excited about this, and it connects with our levy. And so we wanted to show you just a little bit. These are the program areas that we now are offering in CTE. These are direct pathways to high demand, high career, high wage, high demand jobs right here in Central Oregon. And it's quite a diversity of programs. We just produced a new video, and I'm just going to show you 60 seconds of this, and then show you how you can watch the full thing. But we went inside our schools to give our community a glimpse of what CTE looks like today.
In Ben Lapine Schools, students are getting a head start on careers with practical skills and real-world experiences that transcend traditional learning. Through our cutting-edge career technical education program, they're immersing themselves in the tools, technology, and hands-on projects that propel them towards success, high-wage, in-demand careers.
CTE stands for Career Technical Education, and so it's a really great way of preparing for possible careers in the future.
In our 7 high schools, CTE classes offer students real and meaningful connections to a host of professions. With nearly 3 dozen courses now available, our program spans diverse fields, from health sciences to forestry to construction, automotive, criminal justice, and graphic design. These are courses that match the needs of Central Oregon employers, giving students a competitive edge, more opportunities to live and work in the region after graduation.
They connect a lot with people that I'm going to be working with in the future. Last year, I speaking out at a lobbying conference with the head of Cat Machinery, even offered job opportunity. It was an amazing experience.
All right, that's just a taste of it. If you want to go watch the full video, you can find it there with that QR code or that short little web URL. But it's exciting to see these students graduating and then entering directly into the workforce if they want, or finding additional higher education opportunities here, and remaining in Central Oregon, remaining part of our community, staying connected, and in some cases not needing to take on, say, a large student loan debt. So anyway, we're very excited about that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We just want to preface the conversation about why we're coming to our community with this levy proposal in May. There is a school district facing a significant budgetary shortfall at this time. It's a combination of things. It's the legislature basically underfunding public education. This is not just our district, but this is all across Oregon. We're feeling it to the tune of about $22 million a year, that gap or that shortfall between our needs and what we're receiving from Salem. It's also, we've experienced declining enrollment in recent years. That also affects our budget. And then the COVID relief funds, known as ESSER funds, are expiring here in just a few months. So the bailout, basically, the help that we had at the time that the legislature lowered substantially our funding during COVID, that money is going away, but the needs aren't going away. And so that's sort of the quick backdrop to why our school board. Did we lose our presentation? Why our school board started this discussion with us last summer, and why we're sitting here before you this evening. So with that, this is just a quick glimpse of other school districts, larger districts in Oregon that do have a local option levy in place right now. You can see the rate and amount that generates. And here is what Van LaPine Schools is proposing on the May 21st ballot. It's a rate of $1 per $1,000 of assessed value. We anticipate that would generate a little over $21 million in the first year of this 5-year levy. It's not a permanent levy. It's 5 years only, and it would then expire unless the community were to vote to renew it. And here's what you'll see on the ballot that will be mailed out in a little over a week. Shall the district levy $1 per $1,000 of assessed value for 5 years? And that would begin for the coming school year, coming fiscal year. And just a quick reminder that a levy rate is not based on the market value of homes, so we're just going to cross that out. It's based on assessed value, and for many of us, the assessed value of our home is considerably lower than the market value. These figures here are the actual median assessed, the median assessed value of homes within Van LaPine School District. So of course that includes unincorporated areas, fine. We anticipate for a typical household that the cost would be about $20 a month.
I want to talk just for a minute about what our levy would do then as we think about going to the community and asking for these funds. First, it would allow us to maintain the positions that we have. I'll show you information a little bit later about how many positions we stand to lose over the next 2 years due to declining budgets and declining funding. It helps us to recruit staff. Paying cost of living wages, recognizing cost of living increase in the wages that we pay employers and being a competitive employer in the region, as well as providing programs like mentoring for new teachers to help keep them in the profession. Many of you may know that we lose teachers nationally in their first 5 years, and having mentoring support really helps keep them in the profession. Professional development for all our staff, not just our teachers, but for our classified staff as well. Teacher leadership and classified leadership positions are some of the things that we're looking at. In terms of career and technical education that Scott already talked about, these are extremely valuable programs for students, for the community at large. They're not cheap programs, as you can imagine. Think about auto mechanics and what kind of equipment is involved, or welding programs. And so to both purchase and maintain the equipment for these programs is an ongoing expense for us. And we believe strongly in their value. When I talk about enrichment, we think about, I'm very proud of Ben Lapine Schools and our commitment to arts education. We have orchestra, we have band, we have choir in our high schools and middle schools. We have drama programs in our high schools, some drama programs in middle school as well. We have music specialists in our elementary schools, but all those are under threat as we face budget cuts, because we look at, when it's a numbers game and you have to choose, we look at class sizes, and some of those programs are by nature smaller. And so that can be problematic when we have really tight budget times. On the other hand, we know that those enrichment programs are sometimes what get kids to school and what keep them in school. Kids who might drop out except for that, art teacher who just holds on to them, or that drama program, or that business education program. So those are really important to us. And then to challenge and engage all our learners, to keep those advanced classes going. Scott showed the slide with our IB International Baccalaureate classes, our advanced placement classes. Again, those are really help students. They give them college credits. And sometimes they have smaller enrollments, so they are at risk when we have tight budgets. Finally, Scott mentioned that our pandemic funding, the extra funding we got from the federal government during the pandemic, is going away. But any of you have children or grandchildren or neighbor children in the district know that for many of our children, the needs have not gone away. Academically, I think about our third graders now, did their entire kindergarten year online, or most of their kindergarten year online. And what was that like in terms of their academic skills? The Surgeon General has said that anxiety and depression among our youth is at an epidemic level. And many of you have seen that for yourself. So we really think that those supports for our students to help them thrive are really, really important. And that will be a critical area for the levy funding. It's not just our students and their families who benefit from the levy, but the community benefits as well. We know that Central Oregon is an expensive place to live, and so to give students the skills and opportunities to have high-wage jobs so they can stay in our community and contribute to our community is very, very important to us. A skilled workforce is a critical component when businesses are deciding to locate in a community, and so it helps attract more businesses to the community and hope not increase traffic too much. Anyway, and then just that they are well prepared and thrive, whether it's in our community or somewhere else. One of the things that's important about this levy is every school in Ben Lapine School District will benefit from this, because it will impact teaching staff and allow us to maintain teaching staff at every single school. So if it doesn't pass, some of these are estimates because the legislature funds our schools on a 2-year cycle. So we know what next year's funding is, we don't know for sure. But our projections, as we look at typical funding over the last decade, we estimate that we will have to eliminate up to 180 positions over the next 2 years. basically a 3% cut in positions next year and another 6 to 7% the year after. And that's across all job classifications, teachers, classified employees, administrators, all of those. And that will cause an increase in our class sizes. And we believe, as we think about the supports that our students need, that small class sizes really help those relationships with teachers and students. It really helps teachers to know who is struggling and provide the help that those students need. Again, I mentioned already that that limited access, that some of those programs might not be able to survive as we think about 180 positions worth of cuts and stretching those support systems thin in terms of counseling, in terms of other support. And then finally, we're projecting, in fact, for next year, we already have a 10% reduction in all our supplies budgets for schools, what we call our discretionary budget.
Hang on a second.
We have a few minutes. Is Jen still here? Oh, yes, questions.
What's the, you mentioned the cost of, the cuts you would have to take, but at the very beginning, you did mention you have to find
Right, yeah.
what is the volume of that decline, and are you looking at why?
Yeah, that's a great question. Scott, I want to say about 1,000 to 1,200 students since before the pandemic.
Repeat that question.
Oh, I'm sorry. She asked about declining enrollment and if we had reasons why. So we've lost somewhere around 1,200 students, going from a high of about 18,000 to now just a little less than 17,000. I'm a language arts teacher, not a math teacher, so I can't tell you that percentage, but that's what we faced. I think there are a multitude of reasons. One, that is matched all over the state, and actually nationally, there's a trend of school age enrollment going down. So we have declining birth rates. It's very expensive to live here in Bend. We have a number of families who left schools during the pandemic, primarily to homeschool, and they've just stayed with that model. So I don't think there's one reason. I think there are a number of reasons. Exactly. But if you look at the birth rate, as they look at projections, we work with Portland State University. So right now we're projecting how many kindergartners we have going into our schools over the next several years. And the birth rate is declining. So lots of people who are moving here are not people with children.
I can talk about my question is, for all the new homes that are being built, is there an idea of, having the builder pay some extra, or having a Melrose tax on all these new homes that are going in the southeast part of Bend and all over Bend to help with the budget for the schools?
I am not aware of that. Obviously, the school district wouldn't be able to do that. That would be a city or county.
The one option the legislature has given us as a school district, or as a local taxing district, is local option levy. That's what we have available to us.
Hi, I'm curious, if this were not to pass, if this levy were not to pass, does that mean that it would potentially be up for availability again, say, next year?
The answer is yes. Potentially, that would be a decision of our school board. So I'm sure we would analyze, if it did not pass, based on the outcome of the election, the level of support or opposition we had. And I'm sure the superintendent would likely want to have a conversation with the board about that, but it would be up to the board to decide whether to return at some later date to try again or not to.
That's good information. One thing that I just want to put out there too, in regards to the programs that are anywhere from welding to automotive, wood shop, electronics. I work in schools. And I have been here where programs were cut, where home ec got cut out, wood shop got cut out. Granted, that was 11 years ago. It was just not. It's been very gratifying to know that they're added back in. The spark that it creates within the kids themselves. They'll come to school with that class, and it's because they're actually learning something tangible that they can actually use to get a job. Not everybody is hardwired for college, but if they can learn something that will keep them afloat in a positive way, they'll take that opportunity.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to add to that, even students who have all the academic skills to be successful in college, that's not sometimes where they find their passion or joy. I have a husband who spent his entire career building homes, and it was a job that he loved. And many of the people that he worked with were making living wage, family jobs, and pursuing passions. So it's not just if you can't go to college, it's that some people, that's not their choice.
I've got a two-part question. The first one being, what safeguards are in place to guarantee that the money is used for kids in schools? You showed all your different criteria. Too often when we pass a levy, it ends up going pretty top-heavy and doesn't trickle down to those. Second part, before you answer that one, also to consider is we pay a substantial portion of our property tax rates to the schools. We as individuals have to live within a budget. Why doesn't the school district also live within the budget that is already given to them through our taxes? Too often we're taxed way beyond our means and all to satisfy somebody else's.
Oh, I'm happy to answer the first question. We'll see if I have help on the second. So the accountability and transparency measures entail keeping the levy funds in a separate accounting fund that will be assigned to the priorities that we've identified that are mentioned on the ballot measure. And then we have Citizen Budget Committee oversight and annual audits of that. So we will publish all that information. We'll track it and publish it and report it on our website and report it directly to our board. So that's the promise that we make with how the funds will be spent and dedicated throughout the 5 years of the levy.
And I'll answer the second part. We absolutely can live within our budget, and we must. We're required by law to have a balanced budget. We can't run deficit spending. So for next year, for example, Menlo Pines Schools, we've already eliminated 60 positions. We're fortunate that we were able to do that without having any layoffs, that we look at people who are retiring or leaving their positions. So we've been able to do that. We would not be able to do that in the 25-26 school year, but we absolutely are prepared to do what we need to do to balance our budget. I mentioned we've already cut all our discretionary spending supplies by 10%. So I want to be clear that Scott and my role here isn't to advocate for the levy, just to provide information. I certainly understand the challenge of living within our budgets, and we're all impacted by increased cost of living. So I really respect your comments. Thank you.
I just want to add that, just to remind you that the legislature has historically underfunded public education in Oregon for many, many years. So had they have been doing what they should be doing for schools and funding properly, we might not be in this position right now. Unfortunately, this is years of trying to keep up with a lack of funding, and so now it's just gotten to the point that there is no other option. And if this levy does not pass, it is not going to be good for our children and for our community. And I am a parent of 2 children. One is a graduate of Menlo Pines Schools. The other is no longer in Menlo Pines Schools because during our pandemic, it was really hard. And for my son, we needed a different option for his mental health issues. But I'm still here as a single mom, ready and willing to pass this levy because I believe it's incredibly important for our children, our staff who are struggling as well and need extra supports and smaller class to maintain our class sizes that we currently have at the very least. So with that said, I want to encourage everyone to check out the Core PAC website, the Learning Levy website. We would love to have any help if anybody is interested. We have yard signs, we have buttons and stickers and things. If you want more information, we are happy to talk with you directly if you'd like that. With any questions, you can email so that you can also tell your friends why this is important and why you hope that other folks will also vote yes for this levy. There's only 2 districts in the state of Oregon that operate without a levy. Is that right? 2 of the largest.
Yeah, we're one of the 2 large districts that is operating without a levy at this time. And, I don't know the exact number of local option levies. I do know that most of the large districts, which would be on the west side, especially communities that are more expensive, the cost of business, cost of doing business, and cost of living is higher, have recognized that they need extra help, especially when it comes to trying to attract and keep quality teachers. Because we have lost some great employees in our district because they can't find a place to live, or they're moving to Madras or Prineville and spending a lot of time on highways commuting to get to school every morning to greet our kids. So I don't think that's hyperbole to say that is a real situation, a real threat that we have faced in this district. I also just wanted to mention, because I know it's getting pretty late and you probably want to wrap up here. I did leave a bunch of our district informational handouts on the chair in the back of the room with the sign. And I also left some of my business cards. You can email or text me if you have additional questions, and we will get right back to you.
My name is Daryl Blumman. I'm a 35-year educator veteran. Taught 35 years of English classes. I'm a big fan of small class sizes. In my experience, what happens when you have small classes is the quality of the education is a whole lot higher. When the numbers go up, I can guarantee you that the quality of the education is going to go down. Just to give you some specifics, as an English teacher, I believe that assigning compositions was a very important element of their learning. And so if I had 25 students in my class and 12 minutes per correction of a composition, do the math, how long that would take. If that class size went to 40, figure out what that teacher's going to do. There are going to be fewer compositions just to save his sanity.
Any other questions?
It seems like I hear all the politicians in Salem, the legislature, saying how much money they're putting towards education. I hear a lot of rhetoric along those lines. But what I heard you say is the legislature is giving you less money this year in your budget than they did last year. Is that right?
We are funded, as Laura mentioned, we're funded every 2 years, we're funded on a biennium. And the previous biennium, which had been the 21-23 biennium, right in the thick of COVID, was one of the lowest annual increases that the legislature has ever given K-12 education in Oregon. Typically, over the 2 years, it would be about 9 or 10% on average over 2 years. So about 5% a year. That biennium, the biennium over biennium increase was just 3.3%. So our annual increase was 1.65%, which was basically a pay cut because of our increased cost of doing business. Those employee costs and all those other costs from fuel, to utilities, to supplies, to maintenance, went up far more than 1.65% annually.
Just to put it in perspective, Oregon funds at school, we're probably about somewhere between 25th and 30th in the nation at the rate that with which we fund school. And the Oregon legislature put a group together called the Quality Education Commission to say, how much does it cost to provide what we believe to be a high quality education for our students? And that number is about $1.7 billion more than the state funded us for the current biennium, just to give you a perspective.
Scott, if you could take one more question. If anyone has another question.
What are the numbers in the classroom? What's the ratio?
We're actually pretty proud of our current ratio. So we don't have class size limits, so it's possible you might have a classroom where it's a little higher, but you also might have several classrooms that are lower. But at kindergarten and first grade, we staff at 22 students per teacher. At second grade, it's 24. At third grade, it's 27. Fourth and fifth grade are about 31, which is really starting to get a little high. And middle school and high school are right about at that 31 as well. Now, that doesn't mean every class is 31. You might have a class of 36 and another class of 22, but that's right about. And so you can see with adding more CTE classes, with adding more advanced offering, with adding more enrichment classes, we might be able to bring those numbers down.
I walked into a classroom at Bend High School recently and counted 36 students in a very small classroom.
Yeah.
And they looked, they're teenagers, they looked uncomfortably in proximity to each other, right? And I asked the teacher, is this typical? And he said, oh no, there's 38 students involved in this class who are missing today. I could not figure out where they would be sitting. But again, that's not an average. That's an above average. But, it's real.
Everybody give them, or thank you. Also, I thank you for your time, because we're here for you. If you have any questions, I can guarantee you Scott answers them. I'm actually impressed at how fast he responded to all my emails. So thank you, have a great night. If you need any of us, flag down one of the board members and ask questions. Shoot us emails, have a great night. Awesome. Stop recording if you have.